damn it, not now. Wiping the water from his eyes, a specific student of Class 1A, Shota Aizawa, hid his eyes in the uniform sleeve, mentally debating whether to put it up or stay put. Was secretly trying to hide his soulmate's tears was an option, exiting the room, luckily since class is yet to start, which was much simpler. Ignoring the allegedly endless story of his best friend, one he wasn't paying attention to in the first place, Aizawa stood from his seat, disregarding the more cheerful chatter of the surrounding classmates as he walked off. "I'm gonna go for a minute," he mumbled, leaving the utterly confused face of Aizawa, who abruptly concluded his speech mid-sentence. "But class starts in 15 minutes. Hasn't stopped you before, has it? Plus, I'd rather not be crying in front of others." "Don't be salty just because your soulmate's crying, Eraserhead. Aren't you at least a teensy bit sympathetic for them? You don't know what they're going through right now, do you? In fact, my soulmate cries. Oh, shut up, Yamada. He left half a minute ago." "Bro." As President Mike tugged back into his seat, Shota walked through the unusually empty corridors of UA. Going nowhere in particular, just trying to escape the walls of his classroom as he shed tears. Once he could not, despite how happy he was. The future hero wasn't sad in the slightest. His soulmate, on the other hand, reminded a different story. A faint sound of sniffling disturbed the student's stroll, causing him to stop in his tracks as he listened. Processing this situation, the thought of his significant other being just around the corner, or maybe a certain classmate that caught his eyes, appeared in the forefront of his mind. A simple warmth gathering of his cheeks rather quickly as a notion, but now wasn't the precise time to be thinking about such a thing, was it? Gathering whatever scrap of courage he had, Aizawa rounded the corner, his eyes travelling a seemingly familiar student, the one that had sat 2 seats up for one of his right, to be exact. Even though dozens of droplets pulled endlessly at his eyes, he could make out shaky from glancing up to him as he stood completely still, shocked. He'd never seen the listener cry before, so selfishly wished that she would at some times, just to confirm whether or not she was his destined soulmate. Not even Yamada knew of his little crush. After all, they weren't connected in the slightest. His feelings would be pointless. She would never accept him. His eyes reinforced the sight of her looking away from him, though his body remained still, unsure of what to say in the situation. "Great," she hesitantly mumbled in irritation. "In a time like this, you only care because I'm probably your soulmate. If that's the case, just fuck off." If Aizawa didn't understand where she was coming from, he too thought the similar occurrence between the soulmates, who only associate their significant others because of their universal bond of sorts. But if he knew anything, he'd be damned if it wasn't his feelings for her, soulmate or not. Walking casually to her side, the boy slid down the wall parallel to her. His eyes glowed forward to the row of lockers ahead of them both. The sight of him sitting at her side of all places, made the listener somewhat roll her eyes, her head slipping back into her knees. It was embarrassing, enough to find her soulmate at the point of her breaking down, yet alone it would be the boy she found fairly attractive. Refusing to say another word, she hid her eyes from him. Inevitable tears drenched her skirt. "It's not because you're my soulmate. I'm here because I care about you. Probably too much." Listener darted her eyes to the side, watching his unfading blank expression as he continued speaking, her tears flowing down her cheeks. If I'm being really honest, I was really scared when I first started loving you. I was worried you wouldn't be my soulmate or even have any sort of feelings for me ever, after all. I'm just a lazy ass in the back of class. A small giggle stops his monologue, followed by a shallow hiccup. Looking at his classmate, Shota found himself gazing affectionately into her watery eyes, his own remaining the same state. "It's funny to hear you say both of those same things, Aizawa." "What things?" he asked, raising an eyebrow in interest. "Well, not only did you call yourself a lazy ass," she mentioned, chuckling a bit as she rested her chin on her knees, "but you also said you loved me, even before the soulmate business. Now, this is funny, is it not? Especially coming from you, no less." Drying the remainder of her tears with the already damp sleeve of her uniform, listener gazed back into her soulmate, resting her cheek on her knees as she kept her eyes on the fairly impressive prominent blush on his cheeks. Well, when you say it like that. Was that a stutter? Sure. Eyes widening at the use of his given name, the boy hid his face in his elbows, muttering a response, no. The sound of her laugh alone was enough to make more blood rush to his face. Ears as well, as gentle weight fell on his shoulders. The hallway fell quiet, not a single word spoken, as only faint, shallow breaths could be heard. Sure. Well, can I call you that? I don't see why not. The corner of the girl's lips turned up in a smirk. You just seemed a bit nervous by it. I can stop if you'd like. Please don't. Aizawa couldn't comprehend how fast those words escaped his mouth, a harsher blush continuing to radiate his cheeks' his own eagerness. Listener, on the other hand, turned pink as well, not expecting the answer from normally reserved boy. Maybe just this soulmate thing wasn't going to be too bad. Alright then, Shota. Hey, baby, I'm back from work. Carelessly dropping his sleeping bag and a much smaller briefcase into the corner. He expected to hear some response of acknowledgement, or the usual smell of a homemade cooked meal, not the pulling of his cat to his feet. Yeah, I bet you're hungry. Didn't feed you? Eraserhead, the fairly known underground hero, quirked an eyebrow, the soft voice of his wife not ringing throughout the abode, as it usually did when he returned home that night. The restlessness of his cat worsened as he continued to say her name. The feline eventually pounced off briskly through the hallway. First name? Ori began coursing through his veins as he didn't bother to remove his shoes, checking each room of his apartment on his way to the kitchen where she normally stood preparing dinner. He would wrap his arms around her waist from behind, placing a gentle kiss on her ear as she made dinner for them both, and sometimes his student, Hitoshi Shinzo, as well as after a relentless afternoon of training, followed the dinner dishes would be washed and put away, leaving the rest of the night to cuddle, or occasionally, if he was lucky, a hot shower to relax. Or he wished, only to find that she was gone. In her place, a piece of paper laid, dropped carelessly onto the floor as if it wasn't important. Hastily rushing to pick it up, the dangerous thought in the back of his mind slowly made themselves a reality as he read over the typed words. The requirement of his wife fled to be spared. Without a sound, an individual tear fell from Shota's eyes, generated on his own as he rushed to the nearest phone, dialed to the fellow heroes. His soulmate releasing the same tear he shed somewhere far from him.